Hello everyone! Today we're talking about The Outcast, a solo RPG about reputation and redemption. Full disclosure, I wrote this game. You might be wondering, why review a game that you wrote yourself? Well, you gotta start somewhere, right? So let's jump right in. In The Outcast, you play as a character that has been ostracized by a community that they were once part of, because of a mistake they say you made. And to be honest, in the start of the game, we actually don't know as players if we made the thing or not, and we play to find out. In any case, we go on a journey, fulfilling missions in order to restore our reputation. You only need a pair of 6-sided dice, a copy of the game sheet, and you're ready to go. You start the game by creating your setting. The Outcast doesn't come with an established setting. Instead, it provides you with a table that you can use to generate your own unique setting. It's just a list of 36 prompts, and you roll on the table 2 to 4 times, combine those results, and you have your own setting. So for instance, if you roll robot, giant, war, and desert, you might come up with an apocalyptic setting in a desert with an endless war fought between giant robots. If you need some more help to better define your setting, you can roll on the oracles, but we'll get there in a moment. Once your setting is established, you create your first mission. That's right, even before creating your character, you generate a mission rolling in 2 tables. The thing is, the creation of the mission helps you think of the kind of character that makes sense to be played in the circumstance. But of course, if you roll a mission that you're not interested in playing, you can go ahead and re-roll or come up with your own mission. After that, you then finally create your character. At this point, you might have already a general idea of what kind of character that is. In case you don't, there's a handy table to come up with the main approach your character takes when faced with conflicts. So it might be violence, finesse, it can be skill or reason. This keyword might help you understand a sort of an archetype for your character. And then you answer 3 questions. What was the group you belonged to? What did they think you did? And how can you make things right? So if you go back to the giant robot war scenario you created, I can say my character was a giant robot pilot, and they might accuse me of being responsible for the death of one of our colleagues. And I have to prove that it wasn't my fault, that I wasn't reckless. And in order to do that, I might have to return to the battlefield and find the remains of their robot and prove that there was a malfunction in their robot suit that caused the accident. With the concept of the character in mind, then you can create 3 edges and 2 snags. Edges represent things your character are good at, and snags, the opposite. So those can be skills, abilities, talents, equipment, contacts, resources, anything at all. And snags can be physical, mental, social problems, debts, traumas, enemies, anything. You write those down on your game sheet, and you're ready to go. Once you're done with your character, it's time to start playing. Gameplay happens in scenes. First thing you have to do is to frame a scene. So you answer a few questions. Where are you? Who is here with you? What do you want here? What's stopping you from getting it? That's your obstacle or your conflict. And how can you get what you want? The game also encourages you to color the scene with at least 2 senses, that means smell, sight, hearing, anything, and what's going on around you. So now you can take your time to enjoy that scene and come up with the details as much as you want. Since it's a solo game, there's no game master to provide you with the details around you of the environment. It's up to you to come up with it, and you can register it as a journal, you can record in a video, audio messages, or you can even play everything in your head. Up to you. Once again, if you need help to come up with ideas for a scenario, for what's going on, you can use Oracles 2 and 3. And soon we'll get there. Now you start to roleplay the scene. And here there's an interesting, unique mechanic. It's called warm-up rolls. Warm-up rolls, they don't affect the game mechanically. Instead, they contribute to build fictional positioning, to create more narrative. So for instance, let's say your character is in a fight. The objective of the scene is, let's say, make the other person surrender. The scene is resolved with a single dice roll. That's the scene resolution that comes after. But before that, there's the whole fight going on. And for the fight, if you want to, you can use warm-up rolls. You simply roll a light die and a dark die. The light die represents your character, your efforts, and the dark die represents the opposition. If your die is higher, it means that things go in your favor. If the dark die is higher, it means that things go against you. So this gives you the opportunity to create one epic scene when everything is going against you, and by the end of the scene resolution, you can still win. Or the opposite, everything is going in your favor, and when you get to the scene resolution, you get the opposite. There's one more reason why you may want to use warm-up rolls, and that is, if you roll both dice and they have the same result, you have to enter a surprising element into your scene. So when playing solo, one thing that we need is a mechanic to help us be surprised. Otherwise, we're planning all the obstacles and we're solving the obstacles ourselves. So with this, when you do your warm-up rolls and you get equal results, you roll an oracle and you come up with a sort of a complication or something in your favor. It's up to you what you think is more interesting to the story at that point. You can do it. The third honest reason to do warm-up rolls is just because rolling dice is just so much fun. And being able to do that and knowing that your character is not going to suffer mechanically for it, and being able to take a lot of punches and then solve the scene in your favor, I think it's very cool. When you're done with your warm-up rolls and you think your scene has come to a climax, you think it's time to decide whether you get what you want in the scene or not, then you roll the scene resolution. Once again, you roll a light die and a dark die. But now, you cross the results on a table, and you have 9 possible combinations. Don't worry about these funny symbols, they're very easy to understand. The checkmark one means you advance your progress track. That's right, at the bottom of your game sheet, there are 5 little circles that represent the steps you take to fulfill your mission. In every scene, you have the chance to advance it. So if you roll your scene resolution and you get a check mark, go ahead and mark it on the first circle available at your progress track. That means you're taking steps towards concluding your mission. The dark circle, on the other hand, means you taint your progress track. Something happened in the scene that complicated your mission. The plus and minus signs, they represent adding or removing edges and snags. So you might not get what you want from the scene, but you get an advantage that you can use later. Or you can get a setback as a complication from that scene. The cool thing about the scene resolution rule is that you can swap the results of the light and the dark die. So you have possibly 2 combinations on this table, and you can choose which one makes more sense for you or which one strategically is more rewarding for you in that particular scene. You can only have 5 snags at most, so if a result shows you a snag, you might want to swap to another result that's not as favorable but helps you remove a snag you previously had. If you don't like the result you got, you can spend one of your edges to re-roll the scene resolution, and you can choose the best results between the 2. If by any chance you get more than 5 snags, you have to face desolation. You roll again, and you might get a break and go back into action, or you might have to end your mission earlier than you expected. When you fill the 5 circles on your progress track, being it with the check marks or painting it black, you get to the final scene. This is the confrontation. It can be a fight against the final boss, it can be a war, it can be a speech, a negotiation, whatever you think is appropriate, but here's where all the stakes are highest. You frame the scene as usual, and you roll a light die and a dark die. But you add to the light die all the checked circles you had, and you add to the dark die result all the painted circles you had. Comparing the results, you can have a successful mission, or a failure, or even an unclear result, which means that you still have things to do. By the end of your mission, you can ask yourself, were you guilty after all? Were you able to restore your reputation, or are there things left to do? In any case, if you decide to keep playing, you restore your progress track, refresh some edges and snags, and start all over again. Finally, let's talk about those oracles I mentioned a couple times. If you're familiar with solo role-playing, chances are you already know what oracles are. In case you aren't, oracles are a series of tables and tools that do what a game master would do when you're playing in a group. In the Outcast, we have 3 different oracles. Oracle 1 answers yes or no questions. Simple things you would ask your game master, such as, is it raining? Is there a bank nearby? Can I see someone in the distance? Things like that. You roll 2 dice, a light one and dark one. If the light is higher than the dark one, the answer is yes. If the dark is higher than the light one, the answer is no. If they're the same, you have to enter a surprising element in your story. So much like the warm-up rules, you have the chance, while asking a yes or no question, to further develop your scene into something a little more spicy. Oracle 2 is used when you want to find out the intensity, quality, or quantity of something. You first create a sentence using the higher the blank, and then you roll a single die. The higher the result you get, the more intense or large is the thing you're asking. Example, how tall is that tower I'm seeing? So you create the sentence, the higher, the taller. You roll a single die. If you get a 5, for instance, it's a pretty tall tower, something that you can spot on the horizon from the distance. Now, Oracle 3 is used when you need some more open-ended questions. If you need to reveal details about a goal, a situation, an event, a location, a person, a discovery, you roll on this table. A light die and a dark die. Cross the results as many times you need, and then interpret the results freely. The prompts are all somehow abstract, and you can interpret it as figuratively or literally as you want. For instance, you ask, what's in the cargo that we stole? And let's suppose you rolled fire and nature. You can interpret that as a cargo of spices. Maybe there's pepper on boxes. Combine these 3 oracles plus the snag generator and the edge generator. They take the role of a game master and can provide your story with surprising elements and things that you wouldn't come up without those prompts. But they're all optional, and you can come up with things by yourself if you feel so. So that's it. That's the Outcast. If you're interested, you can check the link down below to get a PDF at my itch.io page, or it is also available on a physical format at the Exalted Funeral. Links also below. If you like what I do here, consider buying me a coffee, link below. And if you want to have your indie game reviewed, drop me a message. You can find me on Twitter, and the link is also below. Thank you, and I see you soon.